We've got, of course, an interview with the President of the United States going to be airing tonight on Blaze TV. BlazeTV.com/Glenn. By the way, promo code Glenn if you'd like to join Blaze TV and save $20. Do you have kind of an approach here at this point? Do you know what you're going to ask him?
No. I mean, I do. I've got pages and pages of questions and notes. But now I have to, it's going to take me an hour or two just to whittle it down to the questions I think I can get in. I've got, 45 minutes or an hour with the president. And that's from the moment he walks in to the moment he leaves. So you don't have a lot of time. And, every single word counts. I know. I'm going to start with this. I asked just for a list of the things that he accomplished in the first 100 days. And we got to page 89. I'll have all of them tonight. This is the first 89 days. Look at that. That's a lot. That's just a list of the accomplishments of the first 89 days. That's, what'd you say, that 4 inches thick? I mean, this guy has made more progress than any other president or many presidents combined in the first 100 days. Nobody's done what he's done. But, one of the things, and I don't know how I'm going to, because I can't ask him directly. So I kind of try to ask him several questions all the way through that'll kind of give you a sense of, are we looking for a reprieve? Is that what we're going to get? A 4-year reprieve? If the economy doesn't turn around fast enough, because I believe the president can turn it around, but if it doesn't turn it around fast enough, or if people don't understand that he is changing the entire structure of the world, and he's trying to do it in 2 years, really, we're going to be left with a reprieve and not a fundamental change. And does he think that's really possible, especially without Congress? I mean, I'm going to rail on Congress. I don't know if he'll join me on that, but I really want to know why he isn't pounding Congress into the dirt. I mean, Congress they're not helpful at all. And no matter what anybody says, I've talked to enough people just in the last few days here to tell you that anybody who tells you that the Senate and the House leadership is on the president's side, they don't know their butt from their elbow. They have no idea what they're talking about. They are not on his side. They are not working with him. And that's obvious. I mean, they should be passing, I know this is going to be, he said, I'm going to pass the largest tax cut. Well, he's not. What the Congress is doing is he's thwarting the largest tax increase in American history that would come next year. Well, the country needs a tax cut, a tax plan that will actually encourage spending on business, encourage spending on creating jobs. I also want to talk to him about energy. I mean, what do you think, Stu? What are the questions you want to know?
I had horrible pain in my hands. I had a hard time moving them. I could barely work with them. I couldn't write or type or anything. I tried everything. Then I found Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free supplement developed by doctors, and it's safe to take daily. It made a real impact for me and so many others. Try their 3-week quick start now, $19.95 at relieffactor.com.
I think the economy is a big one, and how he's going to kind of go forward with that. We talked about having that sort of positive agenda. I think that would be helpful. Seems like the markets are liking that today. And there's maybe a little bit of an approach change over the past couple of days, and that seems to be helping quite a bit. I think that's a big one. I think certainly energy is a big one. Department of Education is another one.
Wait. Go back to the positive. What do you mean by that? Like, we talked about energy, going in and saying, look, I'm going to build all these nuclear power plants in the next 3 years, because testimony on the Hill yesterday, day before yesterday, from the president of, former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, was pretty clear. We are going to, right now, the cloud services, if you will, the compute power for all of the big, computer cloud servers, they require currently 3% of all of the electricity that is used in the United States. 3%. In 3 years, they will require 99% of our energy. Well, there's no way that can happen without us having blackouts and brownouts and, the rest of the country just starving itself from electricity. That'll just collapse everything. So a positive way to deal with this is to say, I am going to do the biggest energy push ever in American history. And he's already done it for oil and coal. Now he just needs to say, I'm cutting the red tape. I'm going to make sure that they're safe. But there's new technology now with nuclear power plants, and we're going to drop them in city after city after city where there's cloud servers are going to be. Because if Eric Schmidt is right, and I believe he is, each one of these cloud servers by 2030 will need a full-size nuclear power plant themselves. That's incredible.
It's incomprehensible. But yeah, as you point out, instead of saying, like an alternate approach to that would be, hey, we need to stop these AI companies from doing this. We need to make sure that they are not taking over. That's I would say what the left would typically do in a situation like this. They would try to stop the companies from growing. They would try to stop them from innovating. They would say you need to do more with less. And I think the conservative argument there is to say, hey, no, we're going to give you the tools that you need. We're going to make it easy for these companies to build nuclear power plants in a safe way, of course, but the reliable energy that can fuel these things would be great. I think the same thing, I think if you look at Trump's economic plan, he wants to bring, let's say, manufacturing back to the United States. Well, there's a couple ways that you can do that, and both of them are completely consistent with what Trump wants to do. One of them are obviously tariffs. That's what has had almost all the attention. I think there's a reason why the media focuses on that. I think they'd rather talk about the tariffs because they're not as popular. The other side of it is incentivizing companies to come here. It's cutting regulation. Right. It's cutting taxes. It's making the United States into the greatest place to do business. People will want to come here. And the Democrats have worked really hard to take that impression away from the world over the past 20 years. And Trump, I think, in his first term did a good job at encouraging that sort of development here. I think it went pretty well with the economy. And I think like that I think he believes that still. It hasn't been the focus as much of the messaging. And I think that could help.
This is the problem. And I'm going to try to get him to explain this. I can't ask him. I don't think I can ask him directly because the president, if you say, look, how much trouble are we in? And is this fixable? Of course he's going to say, yeah, it's absolutely fixable. Mm-hmm. But he needs to articulate, or somebody needs to articulate, how close to the edge of the abyss we are. I mean, Stu, I've talked about this economic stuff over and over again. I had a conversation with somebody who I can't say who, but they, believe me, they absolutely know what's happening with our dollar and the economy and everything else, okay? An official in the government that's pretty much what they do. And I said, look, I'm trying to get my arms around this because I'm thinking about, why he called it Liberation Day. And I think it's because he's changing the whole system, that was set up after World War II and yada, yada, yada. And I said, and I don't think people understand that if he fails, this is it. This is our last chance to save America, that we're over. And this individual put their hand on my shoulder and said, no, listen, we are over. So he said the same thing I did. He just wanted to make sure that I understood exactly what I was saying. And I found that to be a little terrifying. And I don't think people truly understand this is it. This is it. If you want to have a country left, we're going to go and experience tremendous pain. I mean, Ronald Reagan talked about this. There's going to come a time when none of the choices are good, and everybody wants to eat around the edges and not take the whole pie. You have to have the whole pie. You can't eat around the edges anymore. You've got to fix the entire thing. And that is going to be really painful and dangerous. And I don't know if I can get him to talk about that. I mean, how would you ask him?
Do you think that's the way he sees it? Do you think because it does seem like with the types of maneuvers he's made when it comes to foreign trade, for example, he really does see not just something we need to tweak, right? Like an absolute monumental crisis, right?
Yeah.
So because that is a big change, and I think slightly different than maybe the perception was going in, and that's something he's going to have to kind of deal with the American people, and it's why maybe he's having issues with some of the independents losing support among independents. I don't think he's going to see. I don't think that's the way he runs his operation. I don't think he looks at it and says, okay, well, this isn't polling well right now, so I don't want to do it.
No, he doesn't.
I think he looks at it as...
He sees himself, and thank God, he sees himself as, if I don't do it, no one will. And I think that's true. I don't know of any... Donald Trump is completely unique. He's been forged in the fire, where he wasn't in 2016. He is now. I mean, what are you going to do to him? You try to throw him in jail. You try to throw his family in jail. You tried to destroy his business, his reputation. They've called him every name under the sun. They tried to kill him not once, but twice. I mean, what are you going to do to this guy? He doesn't care. And so I really believe that this is so far beyond him. He knows, look, I'm here at this time for a reason, and it's to save the country in the way I believe it needs to be saved. And so it is a complete departure from the Great Reset. But it is a Great Reset. The world has been shaping us for this reset. I've been talking about this since 2008. They shaped us for this reset to where they would manage the decline to a certain point, and then it would kind of fall apart and then collapse into this new system that they had built. Well, he's dismantling that at the same time trying to put the system back into place that they had taken apart. It's if he can pull this off, it's going to be a miracle. We'll be the first people in the history of the world to pull this off. It's an interesting time to be alive. Going to be interesting to see how all this works out. One of the other things I want to ask him about is the Great Reset and how, 6 years ago, you remember when we started talking about the Great Reset and everybody said, that's conspiracy. And now look at it. Everybody knows about DEI and CRT and everything else. Everything they said, you have the court system now defending and saying, you can't cut that. Wait a minute, I thought it was a conspiracy theory. I'm just cutting conspiracies. Isn't that what you want? It's incredible.
Yeah.
I also want to know, is he going to stand up to the courts?
Yeah. What does that mean exactly, too? I don't know. Obviously, right now we have 6 Supreme Court justices that were actually named by Republicans, right? 3 of them by President Trump himself. What does that mean as far as I know that they took a stance against him, for example, deporting certain people, and they don't.
I can't believe it.
That sort of battle is going to be fascinating.
These people, when we were saying we should vet people when they're coming in, ask them, hey, here's an idea, COVID. Can we see if they've had their vaccine? No, you can't do that. Now, when we're trying to ship them back home, we've got to have a sit down with them. We have to have a formal interview. Before we get rid of them, we have to really sit down and talk to them. No problem bringing them in. None. Riddled with disease. Not a problem. Hang on just a second. I think you left some of your fingers behind. They just fell off. You want to just take those with you as you enter the United States? No problem coming in. All kinds of problems leaving.
Well,
does that make sense?
A lot of this has to do with your hatred of Maryland fathers. You have always been against people who are just
Maryland
fathers
father.
in Maryland, and I
I was a father in Maryland for a while. My daughter was born in Maryland, and I was the dad, so I was a Maryland father.
Wow, so you can't be deported. That's apparently the rule. I will say, did you see the explanation? I love this of the domestic violence thing, where she filed a restraining order against her, against him for domestic violence. Everyone's like, "Hey, you beat his wife." She says, "No, that's not true. She did so. She filed a domestic violence restraining order against her husband, quote, in case things escalated," end quote.
Oh, that happened. Tanya did that to me last week. She's like, I need a restraining order. I think he might kill me. I mean, he's not threatening to kill me, but in case he does.
This is Glenn Beck.